Last year, some really great games came out. Games like Astrobot, Animal Well, Balatro, Shadow of the Erdtree. Yet, it wasn't the big blockbusters or even the popular indies that had truly captured me. Instead, it was an indie game by the name of Nine Souls, an action platformer Metroidvania made by the indie studio Red Candle Games. The game's done well in itself, the creators saying they have sold over 800,000 copies across all platforms. But it still feels like not many people know this game exists. Why is what I believe to be one of the best Metroidvanias so obscure? And I'm not alone in loving this game too. Someone as prolific as Shuhei Yoshida had panned it as his personal game of the year for 2024, so I'm in good company. Maybe bigger viewers didn't touch the game because of Red Candle Games' China controversy, their last game Devotion having an Easter egg saying a certain individual looked like Winnie the Pooh. Whatever it is, I don't want the sun to set on a game I've grown to love so much. So, what is Nine Souls? The most basic description I think would be, think of Hollow Knight. Now think of Sekiro. Now think of Hollow Knight with Sekiro's combat. Then add a linear, more story-focused game, some gore, a talkative protagonist, and boom, you have Nine Souls. If that is enough to perk your interest, then stop this review and play the game. I'm a believer that the less you know about a great piece of media, the more you will enjoy it. The game starts with Yi, our protagonist, being defeated by a mysterious woman who lets him fall to his death. Roots grab Yi's broken body, cradle him, and start healing his wounds. Years later, he is awoken by the boy Xuan Xuan playing his flute and is revived. Xuan Xuan and Yi live together for a year before Yi starts his quest for revenge in earnest. What is Yi's motivation for revenge? Why was he almost killed? Questions like this are left open and get slowly revealed over the course of the game. Starting the game up, the first thing that jumped out to me was the amount of dialogue in the game. The Metroidvanias I had played before Nine Souls all had silent protagonists who conversed very little, some not talking the entire game. So color me surprised when the main character Yi isn't just not silent, but is an active and core participant in the game's discourse. I'll admit, I was wary of such a large focus on story and dialogue within a Metroidvania. Video games can have good writing, but there are also a lot of games with flat characters and boring dialogue. If Nine Souls had bad writing, this game was going to be a slog. But my worries ended up unfounded, as the dialogue between characters turned out to be great and natural. The flashbacks between Yi and his sister quickly became something to look forward to, instead of something that disrupts the flow of the game. And I'm not ashamed to say that Nine Souls' story tugged at my heartstrings more than once. The world Nine Souls takes place in is interesting and deep, borrowing characters from Chinese Taiwanese myth and has themes intertwined with Taoism. The story can get dark and gory at times. Red Candle Games had only made horror games, previously the Nine Souls, and they used that experience. In the end, I found that Nine Souls had a strong enough narrative and story that I wouldn't fault anyone who uses the story mode difficulty to see it. It's a core aspect of the game and leaves a lasting impression. Nine Souls' main gameplay inspirations are obvious, with Hollow Knight, Sekiro, and Katana Zero being some of the biggest. Combat is fast and heavily parry-based. You have two ways to avoid damage, your dash ability or your parry. Dashing gives a small iframe window but has a short cooldown. Parry can be used as fast as you can press the button. You will learn quickly that dodging everything is not an option. You either learn how to parry the enemy's attacks, or you die trying. A lot. Iframes are all but non-existent if you get hit, and combat can quickly swing out of your favor. Parry has two timings, a perfect parry and an imperfect parry. Perfect parries cause you to take 0 damage. Imperfect parries cause your health to go down, but leave a second red health bar for internal damage where your health used to be topped at. The internal damage bar never goes down from consecutive imperfect parries, and if you don't take damage long enough, your health bar will start to recover back up to the red. Just be careful, because if you take any direct damage outside of a parry, the internal damage bar will go away, removing any chance of health recovery outside of your healing pipe. Parries aren't just for damage either. They will also charge up your talisman attack. The talisman is a move where you fly past your opponent, leaving a talisman attached to your enemy to explode. You cannot use your talisman without charges, motivating you to constantly be parrying. Healing is straightforward. You have a healing pipe. Using it recovers a portion of your health. You only have a certain amount of charges to use, and you get those charges back by resting at a root node, 9 Souls version of save and respawn areas. You can expect your health pipe to get upgraded throughout the game, both earning more to use and making those uses heal more. The regular enemies can be no slouches, but the bosses of 9 Souls are the real secret sauce to the game's combat. Their difficulty is hard, and you might find yourself getting stuck for some time. If the difficulty proves too much, there is a story mode option. Story mode lets you customize the difficulty of the game through damage percentage sliders. Each sequential boss only gets harder and demands more precise timing and rhythm. The game does a good job of teaching you its combat, and 9 Souls truly shines once it all starts to click. Just try the first boss after beating the game. You'll find what was once a significant challenge to be easy. 9 Souls truly is 2D Sekiro in difficulty and feel. The feedback and chime you get from a perfect parry is addicting. You feel unstoppable when completely parrying a flurry of attacks. The game itself is more action-oriented and leans less on platforming. Expect less challenges in this area compared to a game like Hollow Knight. That doesn't mean the platforming is bad. The sections with platforming are well done and have some good ideas, but don't expect any platforming to come into play in, say, boss battles. Exploration is good, and some story moments are tied to collectibles you find throughout the game. If you want the true ending, you will want to be collecting as much as you can get. I'm no perfectionist, and honestly, I'm allergic to side content, but even I was able to explore most of the maps. The zones don't feel too big or too small for me. If you are expecting the same level of exploration from Hollow Knight, however, you will not get this with 9 Souls. The game is a lot more linear for a Metroidvania, mainly due to its story structure. This can be a good or bad thing depending on what you want out of a game like this. Though, the story is strong enough that I think it makes up for this. I still believe hardcore Hollow Knight fans will like this game because its strengths are so strong, and what exploration that does exist is good. 9 Souls is a marriage between Chinese Taoist architecture and cyberpunk. Red Candle Games has coined this art style as Daopunk. Taoism is central to the art of the game, the story, and even the combat philosophy. Cyberpunk and advanced technology create a chaotic element to the art, but there is always a hint of ritual and mysticism to everything. Yi uses talismans to hack machinery. The guards are cyborgs, but use swords and bows. The art strikes a balance with the new, never completely consuming the old. Red Candle Games have made it no secret they are major fans of manga and anime, citing Akira and Ghost in the Shell as just some of the inspirations in creating the art style. They make full use of manga panels during important story moments in the game, and it really breathes life and depth into the world. The music of Nine Souls creates its Dao-punk aesthetic and sound form by combining traditional Eastern sounds and mashing them with newer Western instrumentation. The human voice is used frequently like an instrument, being used as harsh sounds in an organ harvesting facility. For serene singing and a soothing, nostalgic melody, and for the sound of warriors chanting. The music ranges from boss battle themes, tranquil sounds, anxiety-inducing tunes, and even heroic pieces. Love or hate it, I love it. Nine Souls manages to create some experimental sounds I have never heard in other games, and carves out an identity for itself. Nine Souls' soundtrack consists of 72 songs and over 3 hours of music. For just $10 on Steam, that is a steal. Nine Souls is available on most platforms. It's on both PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch 1 and 2, PC through Steam and Xbox Game Pass, and it works great on the Steam Deck. Regarding performance, most platforms should give you a solid 60 FPS. I was able to run the game at 240 FPS on my PC, which I posted the specs of in the video description. I also tested the game a little bit on an Intel Integrated Graphics Framework laptop running Windows 11, and I was able to get 60 FPS by turning some graphic settings down. The outlier on performance is unfortunately the Switch 1. It tries to target 60 FPS, but in a lot of areas it cannot hit it. One of the biggest offenders is the hub area that is hard to look at because of frame skipping. The bosses seem to have gotten the most optimizations for Switch 1, making most of them run fine, except there was one secret boss that had an attack that brought the Switch to its knees. Going down to something like 5 FPS during fast combat was not fun. If you have the access to other platforms, I would avoid the Switch 1 for playing Nine Souls. And that is where the Switch 2 comes into play. Everything in this video was captured from the Switch 2, and the game runs nearly perfect on it. There was only one noticeable FPS drop in the game, and I probably only noticed it because I was nitpicking so much. The visuals on Switch 2 could be upgraded to a high resolution, especially the handheld mode that is a little bit blurry, but it isn't anything you can't get used to. A Switch 2 patch would be great if they ever do one. But what I am happy about is that I can finally recommend Nine Souls to those who only game on the Switch. Performance is solid playing on Switch 2, and you will have a great experience. As far as scoring the game goes, I would give this game a 9.5 out of 10. Nine Souls combat would have been enough to carry this game, and that was all I was expecting when I started this journey. Instead, I found a game with an excellent narrative, great art, and one of my favorite video game soundtracks. There are times when I play a game, and I am reminded that the medium can be more than just fun. It can also be a form of art and passionate expression. To me, Nine Souls is one of those games.